bid you all good morning, good evening, and good night. Welcome to a very special edition of Australians Forced into Homelessness. This is nothing new on this channel. We've been talking about this for years to come. And today, people watching across the Commonwealth pay very close attention to this place. Where is this place? Well, this is Tasmania. This is just southeast, just direct south of Melbourne, Australia here, where people have mass exodus. Mass exodus. So if I don't know if that makes sense. So what is happening over there? Well, we know from reports on the ground for a long time now that people have been mass exodusing Sydney, Melbourne, and other major rural outside areas have been mass exodusing because they can't afford to get into their own property market, property ladder. People born and raised, educated, and some people with not one, but 2 degrees are being forced into homelessness. So what is happening? Well, they took the next best step and moved to Tasmania. Now, what's happening in Tasmania? Well, Tasmania is located right here, and it's an island. And it's a beautiful looking island where it's located. You got a lot of beaches I could see here. But unfortunately, the locals that are living there are being stripped down or rento-victed. They're being reno-victed, where they're basically have to pay more money in rent because people from these parts that are coming in from Australia are basically paying, wow, look how big Australia is. People in these parts here are actually paying more than the local Tasmania locals in Hobart and other parts of Tasmania. So that's what's happening there. So let's move on and see what's happening in the news there. So here it is. This is pretty tough pill to swallow. Welfare advocates concerned perfect storm brewing in Tasmania as rental demand outstrips supply. So this happened in Reno, Nevada, Salt Lake City, Utah, Denver, Colorado, parts of the United States where Californians and Oregonians and Washington state people have left because of affordability issues. And now it's happening in parts of Australia right now. Now, perfect storm. Where have we heard that before? Over here on this channel. We've heard it on our channel. The perfect storm for housing crash 2021. There it is from 1 year ago. Australia's economic perfect storm disaster. Let's lower rates 1 year ago. Australia's perfect financial storm 2 years ago. Australian housing alarm bells, and it keeps going on. Australian housing crisis 2 years ago. It just keeps going and going and going and going. And we've been covering it here, and now people have been picking up our language all over the world. Tasmania rental demands outstrip supply. So for 10 months, Paul Richardson has been hunting for an affordable rental property near Launceston, without any luck. After 3 years in St. Leonard's home, Mr. Richards is facing a rent increase of almost 18%, taking his weekly payments from $340 to $400 a week, an amount he cannot cover. So there it is right there. Unfortunately, people say, well, there's food banks and stuff he may be able to get. But the problem is food banks have been donating food more to mortgage holders in Australia. We covered a story where mortgage holders that have a mortgage in Sydney, Melbourne, and other parts of Australia, where food banks are getting vouchers from the banks. So banks are producing vouchers for homeowners so they could keep on top of their mortgage payments and don't fall behind. But then the people that actually need the food banks because they're starving, but they didn't get into this whole rat race of real estate, you see what I'm saying? They're the ones kind of getting the short end of the stick. So it goes on to say here, Mr. Richardson receives a careers pension. His son Zachary has cerebral palsy and epilepsy and receives a disability pension. The rent's just gone through the roof, Mr. Richardson said. The pair struggle to make ends meet. Every cent is already spoken for. The only money we're getting, he said, we're thankful that money, but $340, that's more than house payments. So if you get an increase from $400 to $450, well, that's the bottom line. So you can't afford anything, can't afford to eat, basically. So here it is. Rents in Tasmania have increased 36% in the past 5 years. Now, why has it been going up so much in the last 5? That's a lot of a percentage increase. Well, it goes back to this. It goes back to this right here. We made this video 5 years ago. Get out of Sydney, housing out of reach. Housing was getting out of reach out of Sydney, and I've been reporting on it a lot and letting people know, like, get the hell out. The TASC COSS is urging the state government to reintroduce protections against evictions and rent increases. So they're going to start now entering some sort of laws to protect these people. The housing minister says the government's focus is on building more housing and creating more jobs. That's not going to work because they tried that in New Zealand with Kiwi Build. And there it is. Rental market, a perfect storm. Woo! There it is. According to Shelter Tasmania, rents across the state have risen 36% in the past 5 years for outstripping income growth, while vacancy rates remain below 1%. The organization said the median income for renting household in Hobart was $64,000 compared to $93,500 in Melbourne. So there it is. I am in panic mode. There's a lot of people in panic mode right now, and people just don't have money for food. And this is what's happening to this family, and it's really, really scary. So let's go back. So we did cover the perfect storm on here many times. Trends in the housing market, can't pay my rent. So it's happening. It's happening, guys. All right, so here it is. End of national rental scheme to compound Tasmania's housing crisis as unaffordability sweeps the states. It's the state of Tasmania. I'm sorry, not the states. I don't want to confuse people in the United States. Andrew Kimmel has spent the past few weeks packing his life into boxes. His children's toys, the last item stacked into his storage units. The disability pensioner has a spinal injury from a workplace incident, but with nowhere else to go when he is evicted from Claremont home. Mr. Kimmel, will become one of the increasing number of Tasmania's forced to sleep rough. So basically, he's being forced into homelessness. And it goes back to what I was saying to you guys, is just nobody has any compassion for one another anymore. And that's one thing that, like, a lot of people, Mike, what keeps you up at night the most? Is your kids crying? And no, it's not my kids. What keeps me up at night is that people that are in a position where they're completely powerless in making decisions. You see, the government's great because the government, when they need money, they just print money off to pay off their debts. They just print money off to do whatever they feel like, and then they devalue our currency, and the price of everything keeps shooting up. And the people in the middle and bottom, and right at the bottom, are the ones that suffer the most. And that's why this is an attack on the middle class. So Mr. Kimmel now is facing losing shared custody arrangements for his 2 children. The only option I've got, because I've got camping gear, is to go into a caravan park and sleep in a tent, he said. Wow. I did a search and there's nothing. There's nothing at all. That sort of price that I can't afford. For almost 2 years, Mr. Kimmel paid $263 a week in rent, with the rent subsidized through the National Rental Affordability Scheme. But the program is expiring, and his landlord wants to ensure they continue receiving market rent for the property. So that's what's happening there. I've always been a good tenant, paid my rent, paid my bills, done all the right things all the time. You've just got to sort of block it out and take each day as it comes. Vacancy rates tight. We already discussed that. In Tasmania there. So there it is. The state is pushing more and more people into homelessness. You see, governments like to get involved in certain things, and then they don't want to get involved in the repercussions or the damage at the end. They like to devaluate currency. They like to push the housing prices. Australia is no saint. Australia, Canada, New Zealand, all those countries have been competing for rich Chinese immigrants. They couldn't care less about the people that built the infrastructure and made the country what it is today. They couldn't care less for those people. All right, let's move on. So here it is. I covered this one a while back, 4 years ago. People forced into homelessness, vacant homes, no vacancy, empty homes. So when you got empty homes everywhere, it's obviously eviction notices coming soon to a city near you. That's from 2 days ago. And this is a house. This is a house they're renting out. It's not a house. They're actually renting out a closet for $200 a week. There's the closet right there. They're actually renting out the closet for $200 a week. And there it is. Break the mortgage term, massive bank fees, penalties across Australia. And Pensioners can't afford food. That was from a year ago. And people are being priced out of food. The Raven brought it up on Mike in the Night. People are being priced out of food. So here goes here. The Australian property market booming. The gains are based on massive debts. Again, people have been using their homes as ATM machines. We've been talking about that in here for years. Record low interest rates are driving house prices higher, particularly in the regions, but some experts warn it's unsustainable. They've been calling unsustainableness. I've been calling unsustainableness in Australia for the last almost 8 years now, and I haven't been right. So it is unsustainable, yes. Are they going to do the due diligence and actually start raising interest rates to keep up? Well, their bond market's going to start going nuts, and you're going to start to see a huge movement in the markets where they're going to be forced to have to raise interest rates, or they're going to start going into inflational, dangerous territories. We'll see how the market reacts to it. They've created this Frankenstein monster all over the Commonwealth. All English-speaking countries have created this Frankenstein monster, and it's very interesting to see now what the monster is going to do. And they can't unplug it. They don't know what to do. They got to keep going, right? So the Australian housing market is going gangbusters, and all the signs are the boom is here to stay. When the property data from CoreLogic tracked at 1,191 auctions, so auctions is becoming a thing in America. I covered that last night. America is seeing auctions now that they've never seen before in rural and small towns, in Florida, in Alabama, in Texas. They're seeing auctions now. They never did before, but now they're seeing them. So this is nothing new to Australia. Last weekend, it found 86.1% of properties that went under the hammer sold, 2.3% increase on the week before. So there it is. So when auction clearance rates are high, you expect house prices to be rising and vice versa. Lawless said, at the moment, we're seeing clearance rates well above 80%. The last time we saw the same was in 2015, but you have to go back a decade to see auction markets strong as this. So back in the day, basically in Canada and the United States, before the new president-elect Joe Biden got elected, the price of a house would be a price of a house. You go there, look at it, send an appraisal. Okay, it needs this. Can you cut some of the price? You make a deal with the owner, and you go ahead and settle on a price. Now, in United States now, that's the starting price of a home now. So America is waking up to a rude awakening to auctions, to bidding wars. America is waking up to it now, and it's going to be a really big rude awakening for Americans. Australians are used to it, being bought out of their own markets. But now rural parts of them, now this just started happening after Joe Biden got selected into the presidency. And now all the blue states are moving into the red states, and you're going to see a huge liberal Amerifornia takeover. So this is what's happening here. So now let's hear. There's a lot of focus at the moment in Australia. Back to Australia here. There's a lot of focus at the moment on the fact that housing prices are rising again, and the stock market has been strong, Lowe said. Well, the National House Price Index today is where it was 4 years ago, and the equity market, we're back to where we were at the beginning of last year. So there you go. To date, around 82,000 homeowners have subscribed to the Home Builders Scheme, and at a cost of $2 billion, where other initiatives like Cash Flow Boost program directly injected sums up to $100,000 into small to medium businesses earning less than $50 million a year. So they're boosting up the economy into small business, which is a nice thing, because I know they're not really, I don't know if they're really doing that in Canada, but I have a small business, but I haven't gotten any of that, whatever it is, stimulus or whatever that is. Okay. So now we're going to actually debunk this right now. Has COVID really caused an exodus from our major cities? In fact, moving to other regions is nothing new. Moving to the regions or other regions is nothing new. International migration resulted in a net loss of 11,200 people from Australia's capital cities, where September quarter of 2020, according to Australia's Bureau of Statistics Canada, released this month. At the same time, some regional areas experienced significant growth in house prices demand. So what's happened is people are moving out of these regions because of affordability levels. And guys, it's been going out. It's been happening for many, many years. Let me see right here. Get out of Sydney, out of reach. It's already been young families leaving Australian major cities. I've covered this many times. So I kind of wanted to throw this out there so you guys know that we've been. This is fake. COVID has nothing to do with it. People have already been outstripped a long time ago. So this is by Roy Morgan. This is a really good article. It's from February 9th, 2021. It discusses mortgage stress already a danger for 1 in 5 mortgage holders. Loan holidays set to end. So there it is right there. So if you look here, you could see the mortgage stress versus owner-occupied mortgage holders. These are the ones at risk here, and these are the ones that are extremely at risk. So this is a major deal that's happening right now down under. So if you look at the mortgage risk for those with negative employment changes due to COVID, there it is right there. Extremely at risk, 16.3%. Australians 14 plus with negative employment changes, and Australians 14 plus at risk. So there it is right there. And that's the mortgage holder population to the left. Now, this is very important. It goes into say right here where the withdrawal of the support gives increased importance to tracking the level of mortgage stress during 2021, as it can provide an early indicator of potential financial problems approaching in the near future. Anyways, I've got a lot of people messaging me asking if Martin North from Digital Analytics could come back on the channel. We had Martin North on the channel about a year ago discussing, let me just type it in here. Hopefully we could get him on the show and ask him once again. Here it is here. We had Martin North on the channel here. Martin North, The Great Housing Debates, and legendary guest Martin North, Australian Economic News. And it got quite a bit of views. The channel is not really followed by many people, but I have been here for years. I've been here warning and sounding the alarm. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. It is I, Mike Martins. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And if you're in Australia, share this. Please let people know across the